Good afternoon, brethren. In 2020, the strategy group was formed under the current Programme Master's leadership to develop our organisation strategy for a 7-year period, starting in 2022. You may ask a very simple question: why do we need a strategy? Whilst most major organisations have a public strategy, I can assure you this isn't a tick-the-box exercise or following some trend or fad. Our aim is simple: to cement our reputation as a force for good in our communities and society at large, and as a thriving organisation with people aspiring to join us. Freemasonry has been an important part of the development of our society for over 300 years. Indeed, you'll hear more about this at the special meeting of Grand Lodge in January. And the impact of our charitable efforts and member contributions to our local communities today cannot be overestimated. However, a slow but steady decline in our membership numbers threatens our relevance to a wider society and our ability to positively impact our local communities. This slide shows the total number of members across England, Wales, Channel Islands and the Isle of Man since 2008. Fewer than we thought, isn't it? What you see is the compounded impact of an average 2.5% annual decline in our membership each year, taking us from around 200,000 members 10 years ago to a little over 150,000 today. And whilst we've made great progress over the last year with initiations, as you can see from this slide, this is really only reversing the impact of the pandemic. And even with this substantial increase, we still had a slight decline in members' numbers overall. Importantly, these losses aren't necessarily coming from where you think. Whilst we are on average an older organisation, death in this situation is not the great enemy. As you can see from this chart, we lose far too many members to resignation, cessation and exclusions, including those who just quietly drift away. It almost completely negates all the excellent work we've done in bringing in new initiates into the craft. And our membership challenge is to close this gap. At present, we either need to increase initiations by 46% or reduce resignations accordingly. The ideal practical reality would be a mix of the two. One particularly startling statistic is 17% of new initiates are lost within 3 years of joining. This is an average for UGLE. In some provinces, the loss rate is as high as 30%. Others leave later for a number of reasons, including lodge closures because they move to a different part of the country and don't rejoin a lodge, or simply because they've stopped enjoying the masonry. And all of this is avoidable. The temple is set upon strong foundations. These are the practical logistical elements that UGLE and the provinces need to deliver for you as a best-in-class membership organisation. There are 3 pillars. The first, thriving membership, is critical to tackling the membership challenge, and it's about attracting new members and ensuring the membership experience is what it should be to keep them in Freemasonry for life. It also sets out how we can better engage with our existing membership, ensuring that Freemasonry remains relevant and enjoyable for them, particularly those who may be infrequent in attending their lodge. The second, coherent organisation, sets out how we across all levels of our organisation must act as one in delivering our strategy. Everyone from the Grand Master himself to the newest entered apprentice has a duty and responsibility to support the success of our organisation. Without our membership all pulling in the same direction, the strategy will fail. The third pillar, community engagement, is what we already do so well. We must build upon our charitable works and member contributions to their communities and wider society as a whole to ensure we continue to promote a positive and attractive profile and image for Freemasonry. And to be clear, our ultimate goals are eminently achievable. We aren't talking about unrealistically targeting 20% growth, but rather slow but steady increases in our membership numbers. 1% per annum by year 3, and by year 7 of the end of the strategy period, 2% per annum. This should set us on a sustainable growth trajectory as a nationally relevant, thriving membership organisation for the next 300 years. Every Freemason has a part to play, no matter where they sit in our organisation. And to assist in better defining how we're going to do this, I'm going to call on some reinforcements. So I'm joined by 4 Masons of very different experience and location. So we've got Henry Cunnington, who's a newly made Mason, and also recently exalted into the Royal Arch. We've got Ben Gate, who's our Provincial Grand Secretary in South Wales, I think one of the youngest ever, so welcome Ben. Brodie Swain, a Provincial Communications Officer from Worcestershire, and also, for those of you who watch Solomon Live, our great presenter on that, and John Thompson, who's Provincial Grand Master of Durham and also the Grand Superintendent over and above Durham. Welcome, gentlemen. John, let me start with you. You've had the opportunity to hear from the Programme Master and the Strategy Group firsthand and other PGMs and had an opportunity to input into it. What elements resound the most for you?
The thing that strikes me most about the strategy is the positive approach that it's taken. It's really making us all think as Freemasons in our lodges and districts about change, to adapt and to change where necessary, but remembering the fundamentals of the history of Freemasonry. We've got a rich tapestry that we need to tap into, but at the core of everything is the Freemason, and it's important that we look after them from day one right the way through their Masonic journey to make sure that the enjoyment is there, the building is fit for purpose, the ritual is spot on. If we send them home happy, they'll come back again, and a happy Freemason is an ambassador for our organisation.
Yeah, definitely. John, also conscious that we are a national organisation and we have 47 distinct provinces, London and of course the districts. How are you planning on reflecting local characteristics into the strategy to maximise the impact?
I think, like with any strategy, you've got your high line strategy, but you've got to give the local feel. Nobody understands the provinces, districts, and metropolitan like those who live there and breathe it every day. We have to be conscious and mindful of the circumstances that our members are living with. And we'll get those units that will go driving forward with its strategy, taken on board. Others will be a little bit slower, but we need to make sure everyone is going in the same direction. If we can achieve that, then I think we'll achieve success.
Ben, as a Provincial Grand Secretary, you no doubt have the unenviable task of having to deal with some of the more practical elements of the strategy rollout. For you, what will be the most important areas to get right?
So for me, with the objective being to be the best in class membership organisation, I think one of the key elements is the accuracy of data and the availability of timely and accurate data. So to that end, I think our members would expect us to be investing in information technology and those management information systems that make that a possibility. I know that Grand Lodge has recently developed a new system, a solution for that, and South Wales, my own province, was fortunate enough to be one of the earliest on the rollout delivery plan. So being able to use that has really made me believe passionately that that's exactly the sort of system that we should be rolling out across our organisation. And I was especially pleased to see recently that Grand Lodge has appointed a Chief Information Officer who not only is a professional IT professional in real life, but also a Deputy Provincial Grand Master, so he knows not only the IT aspects but also the craft in the Royal Arch.
Brodie, as a Provincial Communication Officer, you've been involved in actively promoting Freemasonry, helping to grow our membership. Given how important it is to tackle the membership challenge, what have you found have been the most effective ways of attracting new members to the craft?
Well, we had the pandemic, didn't we? And some would argue that we're still living through that, which was a very difficult time for us. We couldn't meet. It caused us all a lot of stress. But it can't be denied that it was an opportunity for Freemasons to show the world what we do. Not just during the pandemic, what we do anyway. So I think we grabbed hold of that and used it as an opportunity. And I think it did a lot of good. The other thing which I'm really quite passionate about is our shop window. So for example, I'm one of those Freemasons who haven't got any family members in the fraternity, made loads of friends now of course, but didn't really know anybody prior to that. So I came via the internet. So it's really important that our shop window, our websites, our Facebook pages are sending out the right messages. And another good thing we should be doing is celebrating the work that goes on in the province. So if we have a lodge, or lodges I should say, if we have a lodge or lodges that are doing great things and they have an army of initiates waiting to join, what we should do is celebrate that and tell the province that we have a lodge, and potentially that could create others to follow suit.
And Henry, as a relatively new member, what made you join? But I suppose more importantly, what makes you stay? And what's most enjoyable for you?
The big thing for me was masonry came at the right time in my life. I moved to London shortly, sort of before that, and was looking to find something new, some new friends, sort of add to my own sort of social group and add a different dynamic. And I heard about masonry through family members, and then on top of that, I was interested in what the ritual had to offer. And I sort of thought, it's worth exploring. So for one of the rare times in my life, I was right. I found a really good collection of friends. Many of whom I still see very regularly, including during the pandemic actually, which is sort of Zoom calls and things. And then on top of that, and perhaps the reason that I carry on staying, is that the ritual and what goes on inside the lodge I find fascinating. I learn something new every time. It's always interesting, and it's really rewarding once you're sort of on that path, particularly in terms of progressing through ranks of being an officer in the lodge. There's a lot to learn and always something new and interesting happening, and I find that really rewarding.
And as a newly minted membership officer, why is the role important to you? How are you planning on bringing in new members and helping to retain their interest?
It's a good question. I suppose partly for the reasons that I just gave, why I enjoyed joining and why I wanted to join. I want to offer that same experience to junior members and new initiates, and bring them in, make sure they know what they're about and they get the right idea. I think lots of people might hear something online or wherever about Freemasonry, might get the wrong impression, and I just want to make sure that they understand that it's enjoyable and what we have to offer. In terms of bringing them in and making them stay, it goes without saying, using our networks. I'm sure we all do, in terms of reaching out to people and trying to contact possible initiates and that sort of thing, and discuss it with them. Once they are in, it's about making sure the ritual is spot on. That's got to be good fun. They've got to enjoy it and understand it. Beyond that, they've really then got to see what it offers them, and what the different roles are and what the progression through a lodge might be. I think because that gives them a reason to come back. You can do lots of different things within a lodge, and then I think the biggest one really is it's making it not stuffy, and that comes with making sure the environment inside the lodge is good fun and enjoyable. Obviously, festive boards are enjoyable and you meet lots of new people, but then also there's particularly young people. They don't want to only meet those friends during the lodge. Meet up outside, go for coffees, go for drinks, and whatever. Go and watch sport together. And I think that brings a lot with it that it is really, really important to making sure people want to come back and it's part of their life.
And a really important point is to ensure that we aren't just focusing on bringing initiates in, but also to ensure that once they're in, they stay. Brody, what have you done in lodges that you're involved in to keep newer members involved?
I think we all know the answer to this, but whether it's been done or not, that's a different question. So the one thing we should always be mindful of is never rush a candidate through the offices. Make sure they're happy with what they're doing. And also ask them the question, how are they? One of the things we don't do in life in general is ask each other how we are. And I should imagine the majority of the time, if we were to ask a Freemason how they're doing, they would probably tell us they're fine, or potentially they could tell us that they're not enjoying this at the moment, they're not really understanding one particular aspect of Freemasonry, and then we can work on that. If we notice one of our brothers not turning up to lodge, instead of just accepting that and thinking they're taking a break for a while, we should pick up the phone or go around and see them and ask if everything's okay. So those are things we should be doing, and I think it's essential that we do those. Being the chairman of my New Young Masons Club, I will say this, but for the right reasons, I would recommend any lodge in any province or district to tell their new members that there is a New Young Masons Club, for them to associate themselves with like-minded individuals. And ultimately, I think all of us have got a story perhaps of a Freemason when we joined who put their arm around our shoulders and guide us a little bit. Why not be that person for that new brother? So those are just some of the things that we do.
And Ben, how is your province going to support lodges, both in terms of bringing in new members, but also keeping them actively engaged as they progress?
I think it's important to realise that Freemasonry is a journey. So our members are going to need different things from the organisation at different stages in that journey. So for example, we have a membership team that is in place initially to take any potential candidates, whether through the internet or other means, and to match them up with a lodge or a chapter, usually a lodge, that best fits their circumstances and interests and everything else. So that's the initial step to become a member of the organisation. But then once brethren are in and are members, there's a whole range of activities and communities that they can become a part of in order to feel challenged and to enjoy their Freemasonry. So we have in South Wales a learning and development team which run regular workshops and events and other things like that, so that there's always something to challenge the new and existing members. We have a New and Young Masons Club which does what it says on the tin, welcomes in new and young Masons and makes sure they're looked after and challenged. We've got 2 university scheme lodges which specifically cater for candidates who happen to be in university. And we also have the installed masters lodges, so when people come out of the chair, there's still a new community for them to become a part of. And even in South Wales, we have a lodge for our grand officers, so that those who look after members can then themselves be looked after and mentored.
John, you're a Grand Superintendent as well as a PGM. How do you see the Royal Arch playing into the success of the strategy?
I think it's really important that the Royal Arch and the craft and the strategy do work together. I think one needs the other to be successful. The Act of Union of 1813 gives us this indissoluble link between the craft and the Holy Royal Arch, and it really is important that we encourage our members to join, but literally when the time is right from there. We in Durham have a combined executive for chapter and craft, whether it's executive, it's secretariat, it's comms, right across the board we speak with one voice, which I think then helps us to push the unified strategy in our province.
Henry, you're a recently exalted companion. How has joining the Royal Arch helped it to enhance your enjoyment of Freemasonry?
So for me, it's another dynamic. It's another group of people. There's obviously some overlap with craft, but chapter offers a whole different group which you can go and spend interesting time with. The ritual was a really interesting one for me. I'm a member of Savage Chapter in London, which has got a slightly different ritual to some others, which is really enjoyable. And visiting others is equally enjoyable. It's that interest, and I think hopefully all Masons have that same interest in what that element of Masonry offers, is going and seeing how different chapters in this instance might do it. If there's certain, let's say, craft meetings that you can't make it to, there's another element of Masonry you can go and do as well. So it just adds wholly to your whole sort of Masonic career, I think.
Brody, we should also not forget that once someone has been through the chair for the first time, they may feel a bit lost. At what next moment? How do you cope with this? And what advice might you give to brethren going through the same stage?
Okay, well, first of all, I have to admit that doesn't apply to me. I left the chair after 3 years due to the pandemic, just a few months ago, and I do a lot of work behind the scenes in Freemasonry, so certainly not going off the boil with regards to that. However, I have seen on a number of occasions a Mason or two, after they go through the chair, I wouldn't say lose interest, but perhaps you don't see them as often, and I think I know the reason for that, and that's we come into Freemasonry and they tell us you will be in that chair one day. And we don't really take that seriously, but it gets closer, and then we take it very seriously, and we look forward to it, and then it becomes the pinnacle of our Masonic career. And then after that, for many people, it's, well, what do I do now? What's next? Well, there's a lot of things you can do. For me personally, I think once you've been through the chair, that's when the fun can really begin. You can take part in additional orders. You can do that already, of course, but you can focus perhaps more on those. And one of the essential things to do in Freemasonry, I think, once you've been in the chair, even before you come out of the chair, is to express to your lodge that you would like to do other things within that lodge. There's other things you can do when you leave the chair. But don't expect your lodge to know that unless you tell them. So communicate how you're feeling. But my advice for anyone who's just come out of the chair is get ready to enjoy it even more.
And Ben, as you deal with lodges and chapters in your province, what practical messages are you going to give them about how they can change and adapt to tackle the membership challenge to support the strategy?
Well, Freemasonry has a beautifully diverse membership, and I think as a consequence we need a diverse collection of lodges so that members can always find a lodge that suits their individual needs, requirements, diary commitments, etc. So I think the main message is that the province, for example, is there to support and enable lodges and chapters that want to get on and want to thrive and develop its own character. The main idea being really is that as long as we're working within the confines of the regulations, there really should be an approach of, well, what can we do, rather than we've always done it this way or we can't do that because. So I think that there's just an openness to have discussions with lodges and chapters. For some that might mean meeting on weekends, meeting in the middle of the day, meeting at certain times to allow working men to get to the meetings. But I think the most important thing is the conversation. And I think as long as lodges and chapters want to have the conversation with provinces, then we can find a solution that works for them and enables their members to really enjoy their Freemasonry. And it's that enjoyment, I think, that will make the members come back for more.
One final question to you all. In one brief sentence, what excites you most about the future of Freemasonry? Ben?
For me, it's the focus and the ever closer working relationship between the craft and the Royal Arch.
Very good.
I think this is a really exciting time to be a Freemason, and I'm looking forward to reaping the rewards of our strategy.
Henry?
I'd say it's my lodge. It's a really exciting place to be, a very diverse bunch, and it makes me sort of look forward to what it has to offer.
Joe?
I'm really excited to see where it takes us. We've lived with 3 centuries built on solid foundations in our constitutions, and I think change coming now, we have different priorities, but we're still here as an organisation, we still have a part to play, and I think we've got some exciting times ahead.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for a really interesting discussion with some great real world examples. Hopefully everyone watching will agree with me. I really appreciate taking the time with us today. We'll be following up this introduction to the strategy over the next few months with further practical materials for everyone to use in their provinces, districts and lodges. Today is just the start. Thanks.
Brethren, as you will have gathered from the presentation and panel discussion led by the Grand Secretary, it has been something of a journey for the Strategy Working Group in formulating and designing the strategy for Freemasonry 2022 and beyond. Its purpose is clear: to ensure that Freemasonry under the United Grand Lodge of England continues to thrive and to strengthen it for the future. This journey has not been one undertaken by the Strategy Working Group in isolation. There have been presentations to all Metropolitan, District and Provincial Grand Masters and Grand Superintendents, and we have benefited from their advice and recommendations, many of which have been incorporated into the strategy being launched today. The Grand Master has already expressed his thanks for the commitment and enthusiasm shown by Metropolitan, Provincial and District rulers thus far, to which I would like to add my own personal thanks. Without their support, we would not have made as much progress as we have, but this is only the start. There is a lot more progress still to come. The strategy needs to articulate plainly the challenges an organisation is trying to address. It needs to set out clearly how it intends to address those challenges, and it also needs to demonstrate how it will know if it has been successful in doing so. I believe, brethren, the strategy for Freemasonry 2022 and beyond does just this, clearly, succinctly and unambiguously. There are several matters I should like to emphasise today with respect to the strategy for the benefit of all our members, in addition to what has already been said. The first is the integrated nature of the strategy. It covers both the craft and the Royal Arch. It applies every bit as much to Royal Arch chapters as it does to craft lodges. This is to ensure that all members of the United Grand Lodge of England understand the unique place of this Grand Lodge in the world. In particular, that pure ancient Freemasonry comprises 3 degrees and no more, namely those of the Entered Apprentice, Fellowcraft and Master Mason, including the Supreme Order of the Holy Royal Arch. I will say no more now, as I have already covered this in more detail in my recent address to Supreme Grand Chapter in November, but this is something on which we will build. The enjoyment and engagement of all our members is a key feature of the strategy. This applies equally to those members of longer standing as it does to those who have recently been made Masons. We all have a responsibility to ensure that our lodges and chapter meetings are always occasions when everyone enjoys the whole evening with good ceremonies, the essential camaraderie in which we thrive, and we all leave looking forward to the next meeting. It is also the responsibility of all members of a lodge or chapter, not just that of the membership officer, mentor or almoner, to support their members. It is a team effort, and we are all responsible, not least the proposer and seconder of the brother or companion concerned. When someone is not seen for a time, please contact them to ascertain they are not in difficulty, and to understand why they have not been able to attend, and what can be done to help keep them involved. This may be as simple as just offering them a lift to the next meeting. This support, and just offering them a hand of friendship, might just help to address the issue of resignations, or, what is worse, cessations and exclusions, where members just quietly drift away, often unnoticed. Attracting new members is important, but as you heard earlier, retaining the active engagement and enjoyment of our existing members will be just as much a key to our success. Across the Constitution, we must adopt a yes-if attitude at all levels, and be an organisation which learns from trying alternative ways of doing things. For too long, the standard answer in considering adapting things, without losing the essence of Freemasonry or being a Freemason, has been no, because. The usual corollary to this is that inevitable phrase, "we've always done it that way." We all know this really means what could be remembered of the practice in any particular lodge or chapter over the last 20 or 30 years. It is not just in Freemasonry, brethren, where this happens, as it also happens in other member organisations, but it is a feature in too many lodges and chapters. A yes-if approach transforms the discussion into something positive. When something new is tried in a lodge or chapter, be it a later start time, a double or triple ceremony, a strict rule of the meeting lasting no more than 90 minutes, or the dinner ending by a set time, we need to consider, has it achieved what was hoped? We need to reflect on what lessons can be learned to make it better, and did the members enjoy it? We all know, brethren, if we go to a lodge which has a buzz, we all enjoy it and feel more engaged with Freemasonry. It only takes 2 or 3 members in a lodge to take the lead and encourage others to establish that essential atmosphere for a lodge to thrive. We will also be making certain that there are only a few initiatives which we introduce at any one time from Grand Lodge or Grand Chapter. We will ensure they are done consistently well and are effective before moving on to further initiatives. A good example of this is the Revived Members Pathway. This is essential for the delivery of the strategy and securing our future. It needs to be adopted and implemented consistently across the metropolitan area and all provinces. The rulers, both Craft and Royal Arch, will be working closely with provincial rulers on this. For any strategy to be successful, it requires all parts of an organisation to support it actively and implement it consistently and effectively. It also needs to be adapted to local needs and priorities. Provincial and district rulers have been asked to confirm how they will adjust their provincial and district strategies to align their local approach with the overarching Strategy for Freemasonry 2022 and beyond. This is integral to being a coherent organisation. As with all strategies, the Strategy for Freemasonry 2022 and beyond will continue to evolve and improve as we engage with our membership and learn what has gone well and what needs to improve further. We will also check regularly how we are progressing. Brethren, our challenge is clear. We cannot and must not assume we can just carry on as before, but there is no silver bullet. We will make progress through small, incremental changes in many areas, by being willing to innovate and try new approaches, to learn what works and to share this knowledge. We all have a part to play. It is a team game at all levels of Freemasonry under this Grand Watch to ensure all our meetings are enjoyable and all members are engaged. I know the Metropolitan, District and Provincial rulers and their teams are ready to play their part fully in implementing the strategy. I know, brethren, if we are all willing to adopt yes if, and are willing to innovate and learn, then I'm confident with your support and full engagement we can and will succeed. Thank you, brethren.